This video was suggested by Ilari. Okay, here's hoping I don't have another NRG disaster with this one. Hello everyone, Kiri here, and today we're going to be discussing why I believe that the Contumelia aren't within the Omnitrix's data catalogue. For those of you who maybe don't remember, and for those of you who possibly never even saw the episode in the first place, the Contumelia are a race of 5-dimensional cosmic wanderers whose forms cannot be perceived by 3-dimensional beings like ourselves. As such, when a 3-dimensional being looks at a Contumelia, they see only what has the most influence over them and their decisions. Examples being that Kevin Levin sees his car, Gwen Tennyson sees her Grandpa Max, and Ben Tennyson, our titular hero, sees a bunch of Mr. Smoothie mascots. I know a lot of people have gripes with Ben not seeing Grandpa Max here, but to be fair, the quote is specifically what has the most sway in your hearts, and Ben does seem more easily influenced by a smoothie than Grandpa Max, seeing as he doesn't always agree with Grandpa Max and whatnot, so I don't know, it's never really bothered me. Anyway, that's a can of worms for another video entirely. For now, let's just focus on the topic at hand. Without further ado, let's get right into it. It's hero time. So today we'll be pondering on the subject of why the Contumelia aren't catalogued within the Omnitrix. An obvious disclaimer to say right away would be that maybe they are in the Omnitrix and we just never saw Ben turn into one, as is the case with many aliens in the franchise, but for the sake of this topic, let's disregard that and focus on the idea that if Ben couldn't turn into one, why would that be the case? After all, my channel is one where we try and come up with more interesting in-universe reasonings for stuff, even if the real world already has a more boring answer for the question. So, what we need to answer today is what is a Contumelia, and why can't they go in the Omnitrix? To answer both of these questions, let's take a little bit more of a deep dive. We know for a fact that Contumelia are 5-dimensional life forms, and that they are either immortal, incredibly long-living, or simply capable of some form of reproduction, be it sexual or asexual, as evidenced by the fact that they still exist in modern times, and that they existed even before the Prime Universe was created. We also know that, to Slimebiotes, the Contumelia simply appear as masses of raw energy, not as relevant mental constructs like they did in the case of Ben. This is particularly interesting because I believe it answers both of our questions. Seeing as Slimebiotes are essentially the foundation for life in the Ben 10 universe, I trust their vision when it comes to the true state of the Contumelia. If the Contumelia are made of energy, what kind of energy actually are they? Well, I think we have a pretty good candidate for this answer. Omni-energy.
The omni-energy inside is building to critical level.
Omni-energy is something barely explained and seldom referenced within the Ben 10 franchise, but we know for a fact that, at the very least, Omni-energy is at least partially what powers and/or causes the Omnitrix to function. All forms of energy have properties. For example, thermal energy is responsible for temperature, sonic energy is responsible for sound waves and vibrations, and so on. If we take the prefix omni, meaning all, we can use this to determine that omni-energy is a so-called all energy, meaning that either it is the type of energy that binds all things, or it is a form of energy that wields all the properties of all other forms of energy at once, existing as the state of flux between forms of energy. Considering that the Omnitrix allows Ben to completely transform into different alien species with nothing but simple DNA samples, I think it's safe to say that this latter theory is the correct one, especially considering that otherwise it would mean Azimuth had somehow contained a force of the universe itself in an alien device that did what it did. I think the Contumelia are composed entirely of omni-energy, which would explain their ability to create any and all manner of physical forms that 3-dimensional beings would perceive them as well as explain how they existed before the universes they made were created, because they would simply be the natural energy of the universe. If omni-energy is what allows Ben to alter his DNA and turn into aliens, why not say that omni-energy is also what allows the Contumelia to look different based on who is looking at them? But even following this reasoning, this still doesn't explain why the Contumelia couldn't be contained within the Omnitrix. After all, we know for a fact that other beings made of pure energy are able to be catalogued as well, it's like the Pribotosian bees or the Fulmini. So now let's explore why this species can't be catalogued. Even if Azimuth and Paradox believed that the Contumelia were extinct, they have access to time travel and therefore could theoretically travel back in time and find them. At first I considered if maybe the two of them simply didn't want to risk interacting with the Contumelia in case they angered them, potentially resulting in their universe being destroyed by Nylar Genesis Toria Thimiagast. Though it's not like that didn't end up happening eventually anyway, so perhaps the reason why is because the Omnitrix physically couldn't scan them. Considering that the Omnitrix needs a DNA sample, and considering how the Contumelia appear as whatever has the most sway over people, it would likely be impossible for Azimuth or Paradox to retrieve their DNA. In Azimuth's case, if he went to take a DNA sample from the Contumelia, considering that Zenith was his biggest influence for both Ascalon and the Omnitrix, the Contumelia would likely appear as her. Galvan DNA is already inside the Omnitrix, so Azimuth trying to scan the Contumelia would just result in an overlap of Galvan DNA. In the case of Paradox, considering that his every action is dictated by his role of preserving timelines, I imagine he'd likely see Eon, considering how his actions are often revolved around preventing Eon from disrupting the time stream. In that case, trying to catalogue the DNA would just result in cataloguing crony human DNA. But with all that said, that's all I really have for this video. Let me know what you think of these theories in the comments below, and feel free to suggest any other video ideas you want to see. Now to finish things up, let's move into our usual post-video rituals. First, big thank you to our channel's Thunderbeasts, Sharky, Boa310, Riverjoy, and Victor Matuse. Now let's go over last video's poll where I asked you guys if you preferred Astrodactyl or Jet Ray, or if you like them both equally or dislike them both equally. With 4k total votes, Astrodactyl got 14%, Jet Ray won overall with 64% of the total votes, 17% of you said you like them equally, and 5% of you just outright don't like these aliens, which is fair enough. I'll be honest, I don't really have particularly strong feelings either way for Astrodactyl or Jet Ray, but if I had to choose, I'd probably say that Astrodactyl is my favourite. I know their power sets are somewhat similar, but seeing as Astrodactyl is basically just a big Astrosaurs reference, and the fact that his heart is literally a star, which I just think's neat, I don't know, he just seems more interesting to me, even if Jet Ray is pretty damn cool in his own right. So with that, let's now move into the shoutouts for everyone who quickly guessed my favourite. So, big congratulations to Dwight Norton 3398, a frequent commenter, nice to see you on the comment section, buddy. Leon Dyer 3855, another frequent commenter, again, always lovely to see you. And Char J4COB. Oh, Char Jacob. Well, I said it both ways. Who I believe is the one who made this really cool Overchrome fan art, so thank you for that. And now let's finish this video up by moving into our next vote. This time, I'm going to be asking you guys a question that will be sure to spark some interesting power scaling conversations. As far as human-like aliens go, which one do you prefer out of the following options? Viltrumites, Saiyans, or Kryptonians? Drop a comment below guessing which one you think I like the most for a chance to get a shout out next time. Adios, fellow heroes.